Morning, friends. How are we doing today? Okay. Well, it is quite cold out today, and it is my day of appointments. So I have 4 appointments, I forget. Anyway, so let's go on into our first appointment. Oh, and please remember at some point to get up, stretch a little bit, drink some water, take your meds if that applies to you. Eat something if you can. And I hope that you remember that you are loved, you matter. I'm so glad you're here with me. And I hope that you have a good day. Or do what you need to do to survive the day. Morning. All right. Physical therapy went pretty well. Starting to work on not just range of motion, but also on stability and strength. So starting to work on trying to stand up without a brace. Man, those things you take for granted after a while, just the ability to stand up by yourself without support. My legs were shaking. My leg was shaking so bad. And anyway, it's just, I never realized how thankful I was just for the ability to stand up and walk around on my own power until going through this. Reminded to be grateful. Also, walking in and out, there's just this little patchy bit of ice there. And that kind of thing kind of freaks me out. As somebody who is currently somewhat unstable when I walk around, when businesses and places don't thoroughly clear the walkway, people like myself, people with mobility issues, there's a huge risk just in that tiny patch, Anyway, again, things I'll be honest with you, I didn't think about. There's things you don't think about until it's you, and that's sad. And that's why learning to read, taking the time to read stories and to hear stories from other perspectives and walks of life, that's one of my goals this year, because I am constantly realizing that there are situations that people go through or live in that I just don't know about. And I want to be a more empathetic and caring person. And for me, that comes by hearing people's stories. When you guys share your stories and your lives and what you experience, whether it's in the comments, some of you reach out via email, I love to hear your stories. One, your story deserves to be heard. All of our stories deserve to be heard. But also, you are helping me become a better, more empathetic person to others in the world by learning what it's like and what the experience is like. It's one thing to know it's happening, but when you hear someone share how it affects their daily life, what it does to them psychologically, emotionally, I don't know. I think that if your heart is open, it gives you empathy and love for others. That's the plan anyway. All right, appointment number 2, follow up with pain management. So I wore shorts for physical therapy, but I brought a kilt, so we're going to change the bathroom real quick. for the doctor to come in. While I was in the waiting room, this elderly gentleman was trying to get into the office and was struggling with the door. And I looked around, and there's like 5 other people in there. 3 of them are perfectly capable. And I got up to help him, but, I'm also struggling to walk. Anyway, I don't know, that just irritated me. And I guess it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that lack of empathy for others and being on the lookout for those who might need help. And me just going up and pushing the handicap button to let him in, getting up is difficult for me, don't get me wrong, but it was harder for him to walk than it was for me. And because of my experience, I am better able to empathize with his situation and say, hey, let's help. Let's do something to make that person's life a little bit easier by getting the door. All right, so that appointment went well. Thankfully, the pain procedure has really been doing me a lot of good. So now we're going to go rest before our next appointment. Another appointment done. Not bad for whatever day this is. It's a Thursday. All right, I need to eat something. Oh, I actually packed lunch. And what was I gonna say? Oh, I was thinking about trying to go to the library, but that's a bit of a hike to get in. So maybe we'll drive by. If there's a parking spot close to the library, then we'll go in. And if not, we'll just go get ourselves a decaf latte. I feel like that's kind of all I do on these days. Somebody commented that once. It was like, so you just go to the doctor's office and drink coffee? And I was like, yep. And read books. But for me, coffee shops are my favorite kind of socializing. I might run into somebody I know, have a short 5-10 minute conversation, then they have to keep going. I can be around people, but no one's trying to interact with me. There are no social rules outside of the normal, be decent to people ones. And so it's nice. It's like parallel play with a bunch of friends. It's like a play date with 5 or 12 people, however many people are in the coffee shop. And we're all doing our little thing. And that's comfortable for me. It's one of my favorite ways to socialize or feel like I'm out amongst the humans, if you will. So they had a close parking spot at the library. There are only 2 spots directly in front of the building. All the other handicap spots are down the side of the building, still close to the walkway, but really, if you have mobility issues, there's only 2 spots. Again, reasons why I need to broaden my whatever it is. I need to hear more stories from other people because I want to become more empathetic. I shouldn't have to go through it to care. Anyway, let's go look at some books. Yay! I went to the library. I don't even know if that trip was worth it. It was worth it. Books are always worth it, but that was a lot more effort than I thought it was going to be. Thankfully, the librarian offered me a bag, which is now completely destroyed. So, all right, so what did I get? I got a book called Radiant, The Life and Line of Keith Haring. I've seen Keith Haring's art. I know very little about his life, and so I thought, hey, here's a story I don't know about. So, keeping with that theme of wanting to hear other people's stories, I got this book called Blackwater. It's about a popular kid who acts out for attention, and then another kid who has a chronic autoimmune disorder. Totally identify with that one. That's messed with his health and social life. Definitely understand that one. So then apparently they become friends. So, oh, and the town's haunted. So that sounded like fun. And then I got a book called Hey Kiddo, How I Lost My Mother, Found My Father, and Dealt with Family Addiction. This is a person whose family dynamics growing up is very different from mine. So I thought that would be I don't want to say interesting read, but maybe eye-opening. Help me understand other people's childhoods in comparison to my own. And then this one's called How to Live Free in a Dangerous World, a decolonial memoir. And this just looked very interesting. Talking about how traveling itself can be a political act, how it can be dangerous to be black, femme, non-binary, and disabled. So, again, hearing stories that are different from my own, thought it'd be good. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to be reading, and books go with coffee, so you knew that was coming, right? We're going to get ourselves a cup of coffee, and we need to rest anyway. Whew, what a day. It was a good day, but I know 3 appointments aren't that bad, and English breakfast tea for you. And it's not like my appointments. Well, the physical therapy is a bit much, strenuous and stuff. But the other 2, it's not that they're that difficult. It's just there is an exhaustion that comes with going to. One doctor's appointment can feel like a lot sometimes, and to go to multiple, even simple ones, like just going in for a shot, can get tiresome because you're kind of constantly moving on to the next thing. You only have so much time. You can't really relax in between stops. Like every stop, there is this looking at your watch, paying attention to the time, unable to fully relax. But at the same time, like I've said before, I'm thankful that I'm able to get healthcare. So I know it's not something that everybody's able to have access to, so I don't want to act ungrateful either. Which kind of goes back to that thing I've been talking about stories, right? Sometimes we can hear someone else's story and think, oh, that's not that bad, or oh, that's got to be so easy, because we're looking at advantages that maybe they have that we don't have, and not looking at the whole story. Like in a lot of times when subjects of race, for example, come up in politics, or hear it in the news, it's always just a discussion of people of color or white people or Latinx people or people of Asian Pacific descent or people of African American descent. And that's only one piece of who we are, right? Like when I picked up Shayla Lawson's book, it wasn't just black. It was black, comma, and then a list. And isn't that all of us? I mean, I'm not just black. I'm black. I have ADHD. I'm autistic. I have lupus. I have joint issues. I am disabled and maybe disabled light, right? There's levels of disability. But my health has caused me to change careers. So, to me, in my mind, that's disabled. I am artistic. I am creative. And the list goes on. And there are more things that make all of who I am. And growing up, my struggle in making friends often had to do with the fact that the term just weird was all that was pinned under weird, because I wasn't what was expected of a black boy. And I think that caused me to think less of myself, to be very insecure, to assume that people won't like me, to cause me not hardly want to try to make friends, be quick to assume that people don't want to be my friend. And I've since learned that instead of just plugging in weird, let's put a comma after who I am, and then all the things that make up me, that make up my story. And what I've found that I love lately is I don't hear weird as much anymore. I love that I get questions now, like twice today. Somebody asked me about my kilt, and I get that. When you think of a person wearing a kilt, you don't normally think of a black man wearing a kilt. That's fine. And instead of insulting me for not fitting the stereotype of a black man, those two people were curious. They wanted to know, why do you wear a kilt? What do you like about kilts? Tell me your story. That's what I heard. What they were really saying was, you have a story and I want to hear it. And so I did. I told a quick version of my story, and they loved it. And that's so important. We meet people who are different from us, whose intersectionalities might confuse us, alarm us, surprise us, or concern us. I think that if we approached people with curiosity, with a true desire to know their story, and to listen, to truly listen, to understand, maybe you might not agree with every element of their story. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you have to agree with everything. There are people who I disagree completely with things that they do, or and how they might identify with themselves. But I now want to know their story. I've set the judgment aside, not my job anyway, and now I'm curious. Who are you? What makes you the way you are and who you are? I want to get to understand you and know you, because your story deserves to be heard. And I don't know, I think that if more of us approached people with that mindset, I don't know, there might be the same amount of drama in the world. I don't know. I'm a bit of an idealist. But I'd like to think that if everyone was heard first, if we were all human first, if our stories were heard first, I'm saying the same thing over and over again, because I'm fixated on the word story. I apologize. No, I don't apologize. It's just who I am. But I am sorry if it annoys you. Anyway, I don't know. I just think it's important. Like I said, it's something I really want to commit to this year, is opening myself up to stories I don't normally hear. Because in our education system, I'm speaking as a teacher, as a history teacher, there are a lot of stories we don't tell. And the stories we don't tell speaks louder about the history of the world and what we believe is important than the stories that we do tell. And at least for my own life, I'd like to change that. How about you? How does it feel to have your story heard? Have you ever felt like your story was heard? Do you feel like you're able to share your story? Do you even want to share your story? Should have asked that question. Is it important for everybody's story to be heard first? Let me know what your thoughts are. All right, friends, I'm going to go put my knee on some ice, or put some ice on my knee. Whatever. And for now, it is time for your next adventure. I'll miss you. I love you. You matter. Cheers. Cling.